or Molotov, because he's giving me the option to run in hardline if I want to, and unfortunately there's just no hardline server, so I couldn't really do this in hardline even if I wanted to. He then goes on to say play this loadout as the offensive team or just play the front lines of the defensive team. The fact that the SG553 is a carbine suited for medium to short distances. I hope you pick my loadout, love your content, and have fun. Now, I miss running with the SG553. This was one of my favorite carbines back in Battlefield 3. For BF4, it kind of had a run of bad luck with stats for a while. Right now, it's pretty good. The rate of fire is 830 rounds per minute, which means it can dish out a massive amount of damage in close quarters. It's got a decent reload time. The recoil is kind of all over the place, though, and the muzzle velocity is very slow. Popping up the Synthic stats here, you can see that this only has a 470 meters per second muzzle velocity, going to make it really hard to hit those long range targets. Not to mention the recoil is just all over the place. So basically, as soon as you start shooting, your accuracy is going to go off the charts, and you're not going to be able to deal much damage at further ranges. So medium close quarters, it's a great carbine, as the comment suggested. It's also a pretty decent replacement for the ever popular ACWR, a great carbine for close to medium range. Again, very high damaging. This is just an alternative, maybe slightly more accurate than the ACWR, but slower reload, slower muzzle velocity. Now again, I'm playing on my Conquest small server, which is geared definitely for medium to maybe even long range infantry combat on average, so the SG wasn't necessarily the best choice, but it was a lot of fun to play with, and it's definitely fun playing on my server because I'm playing with a lot of people that are very objective oriented and good players. So a lot of the clips you'll see here aren't crazy long kill streaks because I'm up against people who are too good to let me go on like insanely long kill streaks, especially with a gun that's not exactly suited for these maps. Now we are running the SG553 here naked, and since this gun has such high recoil, I might even consider running something like an angled foregrip, just so I can try and boost its mid-range potential, because again, the recoil and spread on this weapon increases so quickly that you lose your accuracy at those mid-range targets. So your rate of fire seems great at first, but then when half your rounds miss, it doesn't matter too much. You go up against some slower firing, more accurate weapons, you start to lose those at medium and slightly beyond medium range engagement. So an angled foregrip might give me the option to sort of burst fire a little bit more effectively at those medium ranges, and I probably would have enjoyed this loadout a little bit more. Running this gun naked isn't the best option out there, even though a lot of guns do function really well without any attachments on them, since DICE kind of screwed up the attachments with the last big patch. I'm not sure why they did that. They basically had an attachment system that had some broken features to it, and then they just made it so that most attachments were shitty in all situations. So it wasn't a great solution to a not perfect system. I guess the one benefit to this system is that if you like to run your guns stock without any crazy foregrip attachments on them, then you still do have some advantages there, and you're not necessarily just always going to get beaten out by the guys who are running stubby grips and heavy barrels and that kind of thing. Without question, though, the attachment system in Battlefield is confusing, to say the least, and it's not very friendly to novice players in terms of what attachments are good for your gun or how they're going to really affect your gun. The descriptions don't necessarily do a good job of letting you know what's going to happen to your rifle. And you can always go into the test range and put different attachments on your gun and test them out, but I think it's just an overly complicated, poorly designed system, and I think it could use a complete overhaul for the next Battlefield game. I actually really like the system that they used in Medal of Honor Warfighter, where you basically just pick gun packages. There'd be like a long-range accuracy package, and that would put a heavy barrel and a special grip on there, and it would even throw on a laser sight and other cool attachments for the gun, and it gave it a very cool specific look. And then if you wanted sort of the short range system, it would give you a stubby barrel, a shorter length barrel, and different kinds of grips and stuff. So you would have a very cool look to your gun overall, and the packages were straightforward. They let you know what you were doing to your gun. You didn't have to worry about doing all these weird attachment combinations and watching reviews and studying stats and all that kind of stuff just to figure out what attachments to put on your gun. It was like short range kit, long range kit, mid range kit. Pretty basic overall. I liked it, and I wouldn't mind seeing that system come to Battlefield. It'd also be kind of cool to mix in certain optics with kits, because this is a cool looking optic, but it's never going to beat out the Coyote sight in terms of how much of the screen it takes up. So there's no tactical reason to use this optic, but I kind of like the look of it. It would be neat if the game sort of forced you to use this optic for certain situations, and I think that's something that maybe we miss out on when you give players complete customization freedom with weapon attachments. You also run into the issue of making kind of stupid looking guns or unrealistic looking guns based on just weird attachment combinations that wouldn't make a lot of sense in real life. Now, simply put, I love the aesthetic look of SIG assault rifles. I really like the SIG in Counter-Strike. They just look cool, and it's certainly not a bad carbine. The only thing is that it really does favor closer range engagements, even more so than medium range engagements, and on that front, I would say it's not that well suited for most of the maps in Battlefield. Most of Battlefield is designed for medium to long range. It's something that it really kind of occurred to me when I was looking at all the close range maps that were offered, and there's very few of them. So unless you're on a very CQB oriented map, team deathmatch or lockers or Metro or something like that, then the SIG is just going to get outranged by most of what you run into. But it can make a really good capture and hold the point style weapon, because if you can get yourself into a little building on a capture point, even in one of the more wide open maps, and make your enemies come to you, then you can have the advantage, provided that they're not trying to blow up your building with C4 or hit you with a rocket or something like that. You can close the distance on your opponent, and that is one thing about Battlefield, is you always have the option to close your distance. So if you don't have a good long range weapon, you can usually try and get closer, unless of course it is an extremely wide open map with not a lot of cover, and every now and then you do run into those maps. Operation Whiteout, for example, is a terrible map for the SIG. So that pretty much wraps it up for this episode of Loadout. Don't forget to leave your comments down below for next week's episode, and check out the new Conquest Small server. I think you guys will like it a lot, provided that you're up for the challenge of playing against a lot of good players. But also, playing against good players will improve your own game. So as always guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.